The first thing Ryan Cole felt was the cold. Not the kind that made you shiver, but the kind that seeped into your bones, crawling beneath your skin until you felt hollow. His eyes shot open, and for a moment, his brain refused to process what he saw. Above him stretched an alien sky, pale green, clouded with twisting streaks of purple and black, like oil spreading across water. Two suns burned low on the horizon, one white and blistering, the other red as blood. The air shimmered with heat, even though the ground beneath him was frozen, covered in jagged glass-like shards that glittered faintly. Ryan sat up fast. His military instincts fired before his thoughts caught up. His hand swept across the ground, searching for a weapon, anything, but found only sharp fragments of crystallized soil that cut his palm. He ignored the pain. He'd had worse. Where the hell? His voice cracked dry. His throat felt like sandpaper. A groan broke the silence. Ryan snapped his head around. A woman lay sprawled a few feet away, clutching her head. She stirred, blinking against the sickly glow of the alien suns. Dr. Maya Lind recognition jolted through him. He'd seen her before. Briefings, lab visits, government presentations he hadn't wanted to sit through. An astrophysicist. Brilliant, persistent, the kind of mind that asked questions generals didn't want to answer. Maya, Ryan said, his voice rough. Her gaze found him, eyes wide with panic. Ryan, what? Where are we? He didn't answer. Not because he didn't want to, but because he had no answer. Movement stirred behind them. A man in his 20s pushed himself up, coughing violently, dirt clinging to his hair. He looked entirely out of place in this nightmare. Lanky, glasses cracked, a grease-stained jacket hanging off his shoulders. Ethan Voss. Ryan vaguely remembered the kid's name from some engineering file. Supposedly a prodigy with machines. Right now he looked like someone who belonged in a mechanic's shop, not an alien wasteland. What the? Ethan froze, his gaze tilting skyward. His mouth dropped open as he stared at the twin suns. Okay, nope, this is a dream. Definitely a dream. I'm gonna wake up in my crappy apartment any second. You're not dreaming, Ryan cut him off, harsher than intended. Ethan swallowed hard. You could have lied to me, man. Would have been nice. Another figure shifted nearby, but this one didn't stumble or panic. She moved with purpose, like a predator. Zara Hale. She stood slowly, scanning the horizon with sharp eyes. Her posture screamed danger, her every muscle coiled, ready to strike. Ryan recognized her type instantly. He'd served with people like her, killers who had learned not just to fight but to survive at any cost. Her gaze flicked over the others, then settled on Ryan. Where the hell did you drag us, soldier? I didn't drag you anywhere. His tone was even, controlled. He knew better than to show weakness in front of someone like her. The four of them stood in uneasy silence, the alien wind keening through the jagged spires in the distance. The land looked dead, but Ryan's instinct screamed it wasn't empty. Maya's breath came fast, her chest rising and falling as if she were on the edge of panic. I remember lights, like a tunnel, then nothing. Just, she clutched her temples. It doesn't make sense. Ryan's last memory gnawed at him. He remembered the facility, a briefing, energy experiments, men in suits talking about breakthroughs in gateway technology. He remembered his own doubts, his suspicion that none of them understood what they were playing with. Then blackness. Ethan broke the silence, voice high and nervous. Okay, random question. Does anybody else remember? Like, falling? Zara's eyes narrowed. I remember being pulled, dragged, like a chain around my neck. No one spoke for a moment. The air pressed heavy around them, and then it came. A growl, low and guttural, vibrating through the ground. Ryan snapped to attention, instinct screaming. From the shadows of the spires, something moved. The creature that emerged looked carved from stone itself, 6 legs, each ending in hooked claws that split the earth as it walked. Its body rippled like molten rock hardened into armor. Its head was worse, jaws splitting into 4 directions, lined with teeth that glowed faintly blue in the sun's light. 2 ember-like eyes locked on them. It didn't hesitate, it charged. Move, Ryan barked. They scattered as the beast thundered forward. Ethan tripped instantly. Sprawling in the crystalline ash with a strangled scream, Ryan's body moved on instinct. He snatched a shard of stone, jagged and sharp, and thrust it as the beast lunged. The shard clashed against its jaws, sending sparks flying. But the strike barely scratched its armor. The creature snapped at him. Jaws inches from his throat. A rock whistled past Ryan's ear and smashed into the beast's eye. It shrieked, staggering back. Zara was already grabbing another piece of debris, arm cocked. "Get up, soldier!" Ryan didn't waste breath arguing. He shoved Ethan toward Maya, who dragged the engineer behind a half-crumbled wall. Ryan pointed to the ruins looming nearby, jagged walls carved with strange alien markings. "There, go!" They ran, the beast pounding after them, claws scraping sparks from the earth. The ruins loomed closer, shadows stretching. Ryan spotted a narrow tunnel barely wide enough. "Inside!" They dove in. The creature slammed against the entrance, its claws raking stone, its roar echoing like thunder. The walls trembled, dust and grit showering down. For long agonizing minutes, the beast clawed and snarled, trying to squeeze its massive body inside. But it was too large. Finally, with a rumbling growl, it retreated, vanishing into the alien haze. The silence that followed was deafening. The group collapsed, chests heaving. Ethan pressed his back to the wall, eyes wide, voice shaking. "Okay, Jurassic Park, aliens, I hate it. I hate all of it." Maya's hands trembled as she clutched something she'd picked up outside, a fragment of stone etched with symbols. Tears blurred her eyes, but her voice was steady. "These markings, they're not random. They're equations, coordinates." Ryan's chest tightened. He knew what she was implying. "They're not natural," she whispered. Her gaze flicked up, meeting his. "We weren't just dropped here, we were delivered." Zara's lip curled. "By who?" No one answered. Ryan pressed his back against the wall, his hand bleeding from the shard he'd used against the monster. His heartbeat thundered, but he forced calm. He couldn't let them see fear, but in his gut he already knew the truth. They weren't stranded, they were chosen, and someone or something was watching. The dawn wasn't gentle. It rose like a blade, cutting the horizon open. Red light poured across the alien landscape, painting jagged rocks and skeletal trees in the glow of fresh blood. Ryan walked at the front of the small group, jaw tight, shoulders hunched as if bracing for a punch that never came. He had been a soldier long enough to know when silence was dangerous, and this silence was the kind that made his skin crawl. Behind him, Maya kept close, clutching the shard she had found the night before. It pulsed faintly, casting a pale glow across her fingers, and Ryan noticed she never let it go. Even when she slept in fits, she kept it pressed against her chest. He wanted to ask why, wanted to tell her to drop it, but something in her eyes told him she wouldn't listen. Not anymore. And then there was Ethan. Poor Ethan. The scientist stumbled at the rear, his cracked glasses sliding down his nose, his hands trembling as he dragged his backpack. His mind wasn't built for this kind of world. Ryan could see it, the way his lips moved, whispering equations and fragments of thoughts to himself, the way his eyes darted into shadows no one else looked at. He wasn't just tired, he was unraveling. The canyon rose in front of them, black walls cut smooth like glass, towering over their heads. Strange markings crawled across the stone, alien glyphs carved deep and glowing faintly, as though breathing with their own heartbeat. Ryan lifted his rifle instinctively. "Stay sharp." Maya stopped at the base of the wall, her hand trembling as she raised the shard. The glyphs responded, glowing brighter. The canyon lit up like a cathedral. "Oh my God," Ethan muttered, pushing his broken glasses higher. "It's reacting to her." Ryan stepped closer, his voice low and sharp. "Maya, put it down!" Her lips trembled, but she shook her head. I can't." Ryan clenched his jaw. "Not here, not now." He turned back to the markings and pressed his palm against one. He yanked it away instantly. "Shit," he hissed. "It's warm." Ethan gave a bitter laugh, one that didn't sound human anymore. "Of course it's warm. Of course stone bleeds light and heat. Why wouldn't it? This whole place is wrong." Ryan shot him a look. "You losing it on me, Doc?" Ethan met his eyes, hollow and dead tired. "I lost it the moment we woke up here. I'm just waiting for the rest of you to catch up." The ground rumbled under their feet. The glyphs pulsed. A low hum filled the canyon, vibrating through their bones so deep it rattled Ryan's teeth. Maya stiffened. Her pupils blew wide, her mouth fell open, and then she whispered, not in her own voice, "They're watching us." Ryan froze. The words hung heavy, poisonous. He grabbed her shoulders, shaking her lightly. "Maya, snap out of it." "Who's watching us?" Her eyes focused on him, suddenly wild and terrified. I don't know. I swear I don't know. But she did. Ryan could see it in her face, and deep down so could Ethan. The hum faded, leaving behind a silence heavier than the sound itself. Ryan's grip tightened on his weapon. He didn't like this. Not one damn bit. They weren't just lost on some alien planet. They were in someone's territory, and someone knew they were here. The sun didn't set. It collapsed. One moment, the alien sky burned red. The next, it drowned in a flood of indigo, swallowing the canyon in shadows so thick Ryan could barely see his own hand. The glyphs dimmed as if they'd gone back to sleep, their faint light a cruel tease instead of comfort. The three of them set up a small camp near the canyon's mouth. Ryan kept his rifle across his knees, eyes sweeping the jagged ridges above. He hadn't spoken in an hour, but his silence wasn't calm, it was coiled. Maya crouched a few feet away, clutching that shard against her chest like a lifeline. Its glow flickered softly, just enough to carve her face out of the dark. She looked younger like that, fragile, afraid. For a second, Ryan saw the rookie medic she used to be, all nerves and too much heart, patching up soldiers who were twice her size. But that softness was gone now, replaced by something harder, something he couldn't read, and Ethan. Ethan was unraveling fast. He sat cross-legged, scribbling formulas into the dirt with a shaking stick. His muttering never stopped. Fragments of math, broken whispers of physics, and sometimes words that weren't English. Ryan finally snapped. "Duck, you're spooking her. Knock it off." Ethan didn't even look up. It's not math. It's memory. This place, it's familiar. Like déjà vu stretched over a nightmare. Ryan scowled. "We've never been here." Ethan lifted his head. His glasses caught the shard's faint glow, and for a second his eyes looked like hollow sockets. "Haven't we?" The silence stretched. Then a crack, stone shifting. Ryan was on his feet instantly, rifle raised, finger near the trigger. His training screamed ambush. Maya. Light. She lifted the shard, and its glow flared brighter. Spilling across the canyon floor, the shadows weren't empty anymore. Figures moved along the ridges, slender, too tall, their limbs bent at angles that hurt to look at. They didn't walk. They slithered, like shadows given bones. Ryan's voice dropped to a growl. "Don't move." Maya's breath hitched, but she stayed still, then laughed, a broken, unhinged sound. "I knew it. I knew we weren't alone." The creatures froze, as if the sound drew their attention, and then, like wolves that had found the weakest prey, they moved. Fast, Ryan fired. The muzzle flash lit the canyon like a lightning storm. One shadowy figure shrieked, its body shattering into smoke. But more came. "Maya, move!" Ryan barked, grabbing her arm. Ethan didn't move. He just stood there, his hands limp at his sides, eyes wide with some strange recognition. "They're not enemies," he whispered. "They're shepherds." Before Ryan could react, one of the shadows surged from above, its claws hooking into Ethan's shoulders. He screamed, not in pain, but in acceptance. "No!" Maya cried, lunging forward. But Ryan yanked her back. The last thing they saw was Ethan's pale face dragged upward into the dark, his glasses falling and shattering on the stone, and then he was gone. The canyon fell silent. The shadows melted into the walls as if they'd never been there. Maya shook, her hands digging into Ryan's arm. We can't just let him." Ryan's jaw was clenched so hard it ached. His chest heaved with rage. "We didn't let anything. They took him." She turned on him, eyes burning. "And what if they come back for us?" Ryan glanced at the shard in her grip. It pulsed harder now, like it had a heartbeat of its own. "They won't need to." He exhaled through his teeth, grim. "Because we're going after them." The words felt heavy, dangerous. But in that moment, Ryan knew two things. Ethan wasn't dead. Not yet. Whatever had taken him wanted something. And they weren't just going to hide, they were going to find out what. The canyon didn't feel empty anymore. Every stone, every ripple of shadow felt like eyes. Watching, waiting, Ryan moved first. Rifle up, boots crunching against gravel as he dragged Maya with him. Her shard lit the path, a trembling lantern in a sea of black. They didn't talk. Not really. What words could they use after watching Ethan vanish into the claws of something that shouldn't exist? But then, as the canyon narrowed into a jagged throat of stone, Ryan broke the silence. "You still got his glasses?" Maya nodded quickly, clutching the cracked frames she'd scooped up in the chaos. "Don't lose him." His voice was flat, but his jaw ticked. "We'll need something to remind him who he is, if—" He didn't finish the sentence. The air grew colder the deeper they went, like the planet itself exhaled frost. Their breath fogged, and the shard in Maya's hands pulsed harder with every step. Finally, the canyon spat them out into an open plain, and that's when they saw it. The ruins. An entire city carved from black stone, stretching across the valley like a graveyard for gods. Towering spires pierced the clouds, their tips broken and jagged. Bridges connected cliffs, some collapsed into the abyss below. At the center, a ziggurat-like structure rose above all others, its surface crawling with faint glyphs. Maya stopped dead, her eyes wide. "Ryan, this isn't just ruins. This is the prison." Ryan glanced at her. "How do you know?" She held up the shard. The glow had intensified, now pulsing in rhythm with the glyphs on the ziggurat. Before Ryan could answer, her sound split the silence. A scream, Ethan's scream. It echoed from deep within the ziggurat. Maya bolted forward, but Ryan grabbed her by the arm, yanking her back. "So you run in there blind, we're both dead." She spun on him, fury blazing in her eyes. "He's alive! We can't just stand here." Ryan leaned in, his voice low but sharp. "You think I don't want to? You think I don't hear that? But if we don't do this smart, those things are going to tear us apart before we even get close." She swallowed hard, chest heaving, but finally gave a single nod. Ryan scanned the ruins. His soldier's eye caught the movements, shadows sliding along walls, curling around broken pillars. Guardians, dozens of them. Maybe more. And then, as if to welcome them, the glyphs across the city flared to life. Ryan muttered under his breath, "Guess stealth's off the table." From the ziggurat's base, two figures emerged. Not like the shadows before, these were solid. Alien warriors, tall and armored in obsidian plating that shimmered with faint light. Their faces were hidden behind smooth masks, and in their hands they carried weapons that looked like living blades, rippling with dark energy. Maya whispered, "What the hell are those?" Ryan chambered around. "Doesn't matter. They bleed, they die," the first warrior lunged. Faster than anything Ryan had ever seen. He barely rolled in time, the alien blade slicing the air where his chest had been. Sparks flew as it bit into stone. Ryan fired point blank. The impact sent the warrior staggering back. Ichor spraying from the wound, but it didn't drop. It roared, a sound that rattled his teeth, and charged again. Maya shrieked. The second warrior had gone for her. She raised the shard instinctively, and the world exploded in light. The alien was thrown back, its armor cracking like glass. The shard's glow had become blinding, a weapon all its own. Maya stared at it in shock. Ryan didn't waste the moment. He fired again, this time a clean shot to the first warrior's throat. It collapsed, twitching. But before relief could sink in, the other warrior dragged itself up, snarling. Its mask shattered, revealing a face like stretched bone and ember-filled eyes. It pointed at Maya. The ground beneath her feet cracked. Ryan tackled her just as the stone erupted, spears of black rock stabbing upward where she'd been. They both rolled, Ryan firing blind, Maya clutching the shard like her life depended on it, because it did. The alien hissed, its body flickering between solid and shadow. Before retreating toward the ziggurat, Ryan pushed himself up, chest heaving. "They're guarding him." Maya scrambled to her knees, her face pale. "Then we go in." Ryan hesitated, then nodded once. His voice was iron. "Yeah, we go in." But in his gut, he knew something terrifying. They hadn't been fighting to kill them. They'd been testing them. The ziggurat loomed over them like a mountain carved by demons. Each tier of black stone seemed to pulse with its own heartbeat, and the glyphs crawling across its surface writhed as if alive. Maya gripped the shard tightly, its glow synchronizing with the glyphs. "It's calling me," she whispered. Ryan adjusted his rifle and scanned the shadows crawling across the walls. "Yeah, well, tell it to shut up. We're not here for it. We're here for Ethan." But the moment they stepped onto the first stair, the air shifted, heavy, like wading into invisible water. Ryan's muscles strained just to move. Maya stumbled, gasping. "Gravity field," Ryan muttered through clenched teeth. "They don't want us getting in." Every step was a war. The stone radiated heat, searing through their boots. The walls hummed with an alien rhythm that wormed into their skulls. By the time they reached the mid-tier, Sweat poured down Ryan's face, and Maya's lips trembled from exhaustion. And then the voice came. Not out loud. Inside their heads, a chorus, layered and ancient. You are not welcome. Maya clutched her temples, groaning. It knows my name. Ryan pulled her close, scanning the shadows. Ignore it, focus. But the voice grew louder with each step. You trespass. You carry what was sealed. Return it or be unmade. The shard pulsed violently, fighting against Maya's grip. She screamed, falling to her knees. Ryan dropped beside her. Maya, hold on. She shook her head, tears streaking her dirt-caked cheeks. It wants me to give it back. Ryan, it's tearing me apart. Before he could answer, the ziggurat itself reacted. The walls opened, stone folding like skin, revealing rows of alien statues, except they weren't statues. Their eyes lit up. Ryan cursed. Move! The first guardian stepped forward, obsidian armor creaking, blade humming with sickly light. Then another, and another. Within seconds, a dozen of them encircled the stairs. Ryan opened fire, bullets sparking against their armor. A few staggered, but most pressed forward, relentless. Maya raised the shard. A wave of blinding light exploded outward, hurling 3 guardians off the stairs into the abyss below. She collapsed, gasping. I can't keep doing that. Ryan dragged her up. Then we don't fight them all. We run. They bolted up the stairs, guardians closing in. One nearly cleaved Ryan in half, its blade grazing his vest. Another leapt at Maya, but she ducked under its swing and smashed the shard into its chest. It shrieked, body collapsing into dust, step by step, blood pounding in their ears. They forced their way up until finally, they reached the massive doorway at the top. Inside was silence. The chamber stretched wider than any cathedral, lit by a dim blue glow from crystals embedded in the ceiling. At the center hung Ethan, suspended in the air by tendrils of light, his body limp, eyes wide open but unfocused. Symbols crawled across his skin like brands. Maya sobbed. Ethan! Ryan raised his rifle, scanning the shadows. Trap. Has to be. The voice returned, thunderous now, filling every corner of the chamber. One of you carries the key. The other will break. The air rippled. From the far end of the chamber, something emerged. Not a guardian, not a shadow. A being taller than all the others, its body draped in shimmering plates of black metal. Its face was a mask of bone etched with glowing glyphs. In its hand, it held a staff taller than Ryan. The air warped around it with every step. Maya's breath hitched. It's the warden. The being's gaze fixed on her. On the shard, return what was stolen, or he dies. The tendrils around Ethan tightened, his body convulsing in pain. His muffled scream echoed through the chamber. Maya took a step forward, hands trembling, shard glowing like a dying star. Ryan, if I give it back, maybe... Ryan cut her off, voice sharp and desperate. No, that thing isn't bargaining. It's stalling. The warden raised its staff. Ethan screamed louder, his body arching as light carved deeper into his skin. Ryan aimed his rifle at the warden's skull, finger on the trigger. His mind raced. Fight, bluff, sacrifice. Maya clutched the shard, torn between her brother's life and the nightmare pressing down on them. The warden's voice thundered one last time. Choose. The key, or the boy. The chamber shook, crystals raining from above. Ethan's scream split the air. Ryan shouted, Maya, don't you dare! And then the shard pulsed so violently it exploded in light, drowning the chamber in white. We leave the audience with, did Maya give up the shard or did it awaken something else? And is Ethan even still human? If you were stranded on a hostile alien world and one of your own tried to abandon the group, would you let them go or risk everything to stop them? For Ryan and the others, that choice wasn't theoretical. It was survival. The days since the crash had blurred together. Hunger gnawed at their bellies. Exhaustion dragged at every step. The heat by day was suffocating. The cold by night was bone deep. Their supplies had dwindled to crumbs, and every sip of water felt like a guilty theft from tomorrow's survival. Ryan felt it worst at night. As the others slept huddled against the wind, he lay awake, staring at the alien sky. The stars seemed wrong here, sharp and unfamiliar, a cruel reminder that they were far from home. Trust was fraying. Ethan, injured from the crash, could barely keep pace. Maya tried to hold the group together with quiet logic, but even her calm was wearing thin. Evelyn prayed softly to herself. Marcus had grown bitter, snapping at shadows. And Zara had stopped hiding her contempt altogether. One night, as the fire guttered low and the desert wind howled, Ryan's eyes caught movement. A figure slipping from the camp, silent as a ghost. Zara. She had stuffed her pack, taken half of what remained of the rations, and now crept into the darkness. Ryan's gut twisted. He rose carefully, boots crunching against the grit. "Zara," he hissed. She froze but didn't turn. For a heartbeat, Ryan thought she might come back willingly, but then she bolted. He lunged, catching her by the strap of her pack. The two of them toppled into the sand, thrashing, fists striking, teeth gritted in desperation. Zara fought like a cornered animal. "Let go," she snarled. "You'll all die if you stay with them. I'm not wasting my life on weaklings." Ryan pinned her wrist, struggling to hold her down. "You think you'll survive alone out here? With no fire, no backup? You'll be dead by sunrise." "I'd rather die on my own terms than starve with you fools," she spat. The commotion woke the others. Maya's voice cut through the struggle. "What's happening?" Ethan dragged himself upright. Marcus swore under his breath, and Evelyn clutched her chest as she watched. Ryan shoved Zara back against the sand, breathing hard. "She was leaving," he said flatly. "With our food," the group erupted, Marcus cursing, Ethan groaning in despair. Maya stepped forward, her expression unreadable. Zara sneered at them all. "You're blind. Can't you see it? This place isn't empty. It's a graveyard. Something killed whatever lived here, and it'll kill us too. You want to keep pretending we'll make it out alive? Fine, but don't drag me down with you." Her words hung heavy in the cold air. Ryan forced himself to loosen his grip, but his eyes stayed locked on hers. "You walk out. You die. You stay, maybe we stand a chance. You want to gamble, Zara? Then gamble with us, because whether you like it or not, we're all that's left." The fire cracked. The silence stretched. Finally Maya spoke. "He's right. Like it or not, we're stronger together, even if trust is broken." For the first time since the crash, Zara's fire dimmed. She looked away, jaw tight, but said nothing more. Ryan released her, though his chest still heaved with anger. He could feel the fracture widening between them all. Trust was fragile here, and once broken, it was nearly impossible to rebuild. But in this world, without trust, they were already dead. Morning brought no relief. They marched across a plateau of jagged stone, stomachs growling, lips cracked. Every step felt heavier. Ethan stumbled often, Ryan catching him by the arm more times than he could count. The air grew thicker with each mile, charged with an energy none of them could explain. It was Maya who noticed it first. A glint of something half buried in the dust. She crouched, brushing sand away with trembling fingers. What emerged made her heart stop. A helmet, not alien, human. The visor was shattered, the metal scorched. But the markings, the faded insignia, the shape, were unmistakable. This had belonged to someone from Earth. The others crowded around, shock and dread rippling through them. "No," Evelyn whispered. "That's impossible. We were the first through the portal." "We had to be," Marcus swore softly, kicking at the dirt. "Looks like someone beat us here. And judging by this helmet, it didn't end well." Ryan turned the helmet over in his hands. Dried blood stained the inside. His stomach clenched. Whoever had worn this hadn't just died, they'd been torn apart. Nearby they found more, a rusted rifle, its barrel bent as though by unimaginable strength. A pack shredded and empty. Bones scattered like discarded scraps. The realization settled over them like a shroud. They were not the pioneers they thought they were. Others had come before, and perished. Maya's voice was quiet but steady. "If others from Earth came here, why don't we know about it? Why was it erased?" No one had an answer, but the unease only deepened when the sound came. A low, guttural hiss. Ryan's head snapped up. From the shadows of the rocks, shapes emerged. Tall, humanoid, but wrong. Their limbs were too long, their skin a mottled gray-green. Their faces were narrow, with black, lidless eyes and sharp mandibles clicking in hunger. Primitive weapons, spears tipped with bone, jagged blades gleamed in their hands. The aliens, dozens of them, surrounding the group. Zara cursed under her breath, fumbling for the jagged metal shard she carried as a weapon. Ethan leaned heavily on Ryan, panic etched on his face. For a heartbeat, no one moved. The aliens studied them, hissing, their movements eerily synchronized, territorial, intelligent. Then, with a cry that rattled the stone around them. The first one lunged. The alien spear slashed through the air with a shriek. Ryan barely shoved Ethan aside in time, the jagged tip grazing his arm. Pain seared, but there was no room for weakness. "Form up," Maya shouted, her voice steady despite the panic flickering in her eyes. The group scrambled, weapons raised, or what passed for weapons. Marcus hefted a broken metal beam. Zara brandished her jagged shard, Ryan a cracked length of pipe. Crude, desperate, but all they had. The aliens hissed, black eyes gleaming as they closed the circle. Their movements were coordinated, too precise for animals. These weren't mindless predators. These were warriors. The first attack came fast, a spear struck toward Marcus. He caught it against his beam, the force rattling his bones. With a roar, he shoved back, splintering the shaft. Another alien leapt at him from the side, only for Maya to swing a rock with deadly precision, cracking its jaw. Blood, dark and oily, sprayed across the sand. The alien shrieked, retreating into the shadows. Ryan ducked another blow, dragging Ethan with him. His pipe clanged against a bone blade, sparks flashing. He twisted, jamming the pipe into the alien's ribs. It staggered, clicking furiously before retreating. But there were too many. For every one they pushed back, two more pressed in. Zara fought like she had something to prove. Her shard flashed in the sun, slicing across an alien's arm. She kicked it down, snarling. But as she turned, another alien raised a spear from behind, aimed for her heart. Ryan didn't think. He hurled himself forward, slamming into her just as the spear thrust. The weapon tore across his back, hot pain blooming, but it missed its mark. They tumbled to the ground, sand in their mouths, hearts pounding. Zara's eyes widened. For a moment, the mask slipped. Shock, gratitude, and something she couldn't name. Ryan groaned, pushing himself up, blood running down his side. "Stay alive, damn it," he growled. She stared at him, then nodded stiffly. For the first time, there was no venom in her gaze. The fight raged. Evelyn, trembling, swung wildly at any alien that came close. Marcus was a whirlwind of brute strength, his beam smashing bones with every strike. Maya moved with precision, her calm focus keeping them from collapsing into chaos. But the aliens were relentless. Their hisses echoed through the rocks, their weapons flashing. Each one fought not like a beast, but like a soldier defending sacred ground. Ryan staggered, blood dripping from his wound. His arms burned, his vision blurred, but he forced himself to keep going. They had to survive. They had to. At last, after what felt like hours but could only have been minutes, the aliens hesitated. Their leader, a taller figure with bone armor draped across its shoulders, raised a clawed hand. The others froze. The leader's black eyes studied the humans, expression unreadable. Then, with a guttural command, it motioned the tribe back, slowly, like shadows retreating into the night. The aliens melted into the rocks. Silence. The only sound was the group's ragged breathing, their hearts hammering in their chests. Blood and sweat streaked their faces, their clothes torn, weapons slick. They were alive, barely. Ethan collapsed against Ryan, gasping. They let us live." Maya shook her head, still gripping her rock. "No, they spared us. That's different." Zara wiped her shard clean, her hands trembling despite her attempt at control. Her eyes flicked to Ryan's wound, then quickly away. "They could have killed us all. Why didn't they?" Marcus spat blood onto the ground. "Maybe they're not done with us yet." The thought chilled them all. They limped back to the plateau edge, shaken and broken. The alien sky stretched above, mocking their survival. The hunger still clawed at them, the thirst still gnawed, but now something worse haunted them. They weren't alone here, and they weren't welcome. Ryan sat tearing his shirt into strips to bind his wound. His hands shook, but he forced the cloth tight. Zara crouched beside him, wordless, watching as he worked. Finally, she muttered, "You didn't have to do that." "Back there." Ryan glanced at her, sweat dripping from his brow. "Yeah, I did." For a long moment, neither spoke. The silence between them was different now. Heavier, but not as hostile. Something had shifted. Maya broke the quiet. She knelt near the discarded helmet they had found, her fingers tracing the faded insignia. "This proves it," she whispered. "Others came here, from Earth, and they died." Evelyn's voice trembled. "So what does that mean for us?" Maya's gaze lifted, sharp and haunted. "It means this was never an accident. The portal, someone built it." Someone sent people here before us. The weight of her words crushed the air. Ryan froze, his bandages forgotten. Marcus cursed under his breath. Ethan groaned and Zara's face hardened. If the portal wasn't alien, if it was human-made, then this wasn't fate. This was a plan, and someone somewhere had chosen them. The realization burned like acid. They weren't just survivors. They were pawns. Ryan clenched his fists, fury rising in his chest. Then the real question is, why us? The silence that followed was suffocating. The wind howled across the plateau, carrying the stench of blood and dust. Finally, Maya looked up at them, her eyes like steel. If humans built the portal, did someone send us here on purpose? The question hung in the alien air, colder than any wind, and none of them had the courage to answer. Night fell heavy. The alien sky burned with strange constellations, scattered like jagged scars across the heavens. The survivors huddled close to a dim fire, scraps of wood, brittle grass, anything they could scavenge. The flames offered little warmth, but the light kept the shadows at bay. Ryan sat stiff, back aching from his wound, eyes locked on the horizon. Every whisper of wind, every scrape of stone felt like the aliens returning. Marcus chewed at a strip of dried root, grimacing. "This isn't food," he muttered. "It's bark." "Better than starving," Maya shot back, though her voice carried no real conviction. She stared into the fire, her fingers tight around the dented helmet they'd found. Silence settled, thick and suffocating. Zara shifted, restless. Her eyes darted to the darkness beyond the firelight, then back to the group. Finally she rose. "I'm not waiting here to die," she snapped. "Those things will be back. You all saw it, they let us live. That means they'll come again. Next time maybe they won't be so generous." Ryan's jaw clenched. "Sit down, Zara." "No," she shot back. "You think hiding here makes us safe? You think clinging to scraps and chasing shadows is survival? It's not. I'd rather take my chances alone." The words cut through the group like a blade. Evelyn whimpered. Marcus cursed under his breath, and even Maya's calm cracked. "You won't last a day out there," Ryan said, standing now, facing her. "You walk away, you're dead." Zara's eyes flared, but beneath the defiance was something else, fear. Better than waiting to be picked off one by one. At least I'd have control. "Control?" Ryan barked. "That's what you think this is about? You saw what's out there. Alone, you're nothing. Together, maybe we've got a shot." Her lips trembled just for a second. Then her mask slammed back into place. "I don't need saving." Marcus rose, voice hard. "You'll get us all killed with this selfish crap. Sit your ass down." The fire crackled, tension sparking with every flicker. Zara's chest heaved, her fists clenched around her shard blade. But before the fight could explode, Maya's voice cut through, low and commanding. "Enough." All eyes turned to her. She didn't raise her voice, but there was steel in her tone. She held up the helmet, its cracked visor gleaming in the firelight. "You want to run, Zara? Go, but you should know this proves humans have been here before. Which means someone sent us. We're not here by accident." The words froze Zara mid-step. "What are you talking about?" she demanded. Maya turned the helmet, showing the faded emblem on its side. "This isn't alien. It's ours. And it's old. Whoever came here before us, they died. But the portal..." She stopped, her jaw tight, eyes burning into the flames. "The portal wasn't alien. It was human." The silence was deafening. Ryan felt his blood run cold. Marcus's hand tightened on his beam. Evelyn buried her face in her hands, whispering a prayer. Zara swallowed, the fight draining from her. For once her voice trembled. "If humans built it, if this was done to us..." She trailed off, unable to finish. Maya met her gaze, steady, unflinching. "Then someone chose us. Someone opened that portal and sent us through." The realization sat heavy in their chests, heavier than hunger, heavier than exhaustion. Ryan finally spoke, his voice low and bitter. "So we're not just stranded. We're experiments." The word hung in the air like a curse. Ethan coughed weakly, his voice thin. "Experiments for who? And why?" No one had an answer. The fire cracked. The alien wind howled, and above them, the stars seemed to watch, silent and cruel. Ryan looked at each of them, the fear in Evelyn's eyes, the anger in Marcus's, the cracks in Zara's mask, the steel in Maya's calm. For the first time, he felt the truth sink deep into his bones. They weren't alone, they weren't safe, and the real enemy might not be the aliens at all. The night dragged on, restless and cold. No one slept. The alien dawn came cold and grey. A thin mist rolled across the jagged plains, clinging to the ruins of what had once been a battlefield. The group trudged forward, packs light, bodies heavy. Every step was agony. Hunger gnawed at their stomachs. Exhaustion bent their shoulders. But it wasn't just their bodies breaking, it was trust. Ryan stayed ahead, scanning the mist. His hand hovered near the makeshift blade at his belt. Behind him, Zara trudged silently, her defiance stripped raw. She hadn't spoken since the firelight argument. Marcus muttered curses under his breath. Evelyn whispered prayers, and Ethan limped, his wound worsening. It was Maya who broke the silence. Her voice was quiet, but it carried. "Do you ever wonder," she asked, "if we were chosen for who we are?" Ryan glanced back. "What do you mean?" She lifted the cracked helmet, still clutched tight in her hands. This wasn't random. The portal didn't just grab anyone. It took soldiers, scientists, survivors. It took people who could fight. Fight what? Marcus barked, bitterness sharp in his tone. "We can't even feed ourselves." "Fight them," Maya said simply, pointing toward the mist. The ground trembled. At first Ryan thought it was his imagination, but then he heard it. Low, guttural clicks carried on the wind. Shapes emerged from the fog. Tall, broad, humanoid, but their skin glistened like obsidian, eyes glowing faint green in the gloom. They carried weapons, primitive yet deadly-looking jagged spears tipped with crystalline blades. Dozens of them, surrounding, watching. The group froze. "Not the same as before," Ryan muttered. His chest tightened. These weren't beasts. These were something worse, intelligent, territorial, warriors. One stepped forward, taller than the rest, its gaze burning into Ryan's. It slammed the butt of its spear into the earth, the crack echoing through the mist. "A challenge. They want to fight," Marcus whispered. His grip tightened on his beam. Ryan's pulse thundered. They had no chance, no weapons, no strength. But running wasn't an option. Not now. The aliens moved fast, closing in. The leader lunged, spear aimed at Maya. Ryan reacted without thought. He shoved her aside, raising his blade. The alien's strike ripped through his shoulder, fire exploding in his nerves. But he held his ground. With a roar, he drove his blade upward, slicing into the alien's side. The creature bellowed, staggering back. The others surged forward. Chaos. Marcus swung wildly, barely fending off two attackers. Evelyn screamed, ducking behind rocks. Ethan tried to stand, but his leg gave out, and Zara froze. Her eyes widened, fear locking her in place. The alien spear arced toward her. Ryan saw it. He pushed off the ground, blood pouring from his wound, and threw himself between her and death. The spear tore into his side, but he didn't stop. He drove his blade into the alien's chest, shoving it back with everything he had. Zara gasped. For once, the walls around her shattered. She caught Ryan as he collapsed, dragging him back from the fray. "You idiot," she hissed, tears in her eyes. "Why would you—" "Because we don't leave each other." Ryan choked, coughing blood. "Not here. Not now." The battle turned savage, and just as suddenly as it began, the alien stopped. The leader raised a hand, snarled something guttural, and the warriors pulled back. They didn't retreat. They didn't flee. They simply paused, watching. The leader's glowing eyes burned into Maya. Then it pointed, not at them, but at the helmet in her hands. And then slowly, deliberately, it spoke, not in clicks, not in growls, but in broken, guttural English. "Humans. Again." The words echoed through the mist, heavier than any spear, deadlier than any wound. Maya's breath caught in her throat. "Again?" she whispered. The alien leader's gaze hardened. "Not first time, not last." Then, with terrifying precision, the warriors melted back into the mist, leaving the survivors trembling, bloodied, but alive. Zara clutched Ryan's hand, shaking, her mask shattered. Marcus stared after the aliens, his face pale. Evelyn sobbed quietly, but it was Maya who broke the silence. Her voice was barely above a whisper, but it cut like a blade. "If they knew us before, then maybe this isn't just survival." She turned the helmet over in her hands, the human emblem catching the light. Maybe this was never an accident at all. The group stared at her, the weight of the revelation pressing down on them. Ryan, half conscious, whispered the words none of them wanted to say. Then someone sent us here, on purpose. The fire in Maya's eyes reflected the truth, and with it a new question. If humans built the portal, if this was all deliberate, who were they fighting the war against? The mist swirled, the alien world watching, waiting. The silence held a promise. The worst was yet to come. Humans built the portal. Aliens remember them. Someone sent the survivors here on purpose. The night sky loomed above them, vast and merciless. The group moved in silence, their torches slicing through the alien mist as they descended into the jagged crevice that led to the underground facility. Ryan walked point, rifle raised, his jaw clenched tight. Zara followed close, blade strapped to her thigh, her eyes darting like a predator's. Behind them, Maya stumbled, exhaustion in every step, her breath fogging in the cold air. Ethan trailed last, his broad shoulders carrying more than just his pack. He carried the weight of unspoken responsibility. The heavy doors loomed before them, a fusion of steel and something else, alien alloys woven like veins through metal. The moment Ryan laid a hand on the cold surface, he knew they weren't supposed to find this. With a groan, the doors split open. The stale breath of the facility rolled out to meet them, thick with the scent of rust, oil, and something rotten. Ryan, narration. We thought we'd seen the worst this planet had to offer. The storms, the hunger, the monsters. But what we found that night, it wasn't alien, it was us. And that was so much worse. The facility stretched endlessly, a labyrinth of metal walkways fused with organic alien architecture. The walls pulsed faintly as if alive. Tubes ran like arteries overhead, filled with a sluggish, glowing liquid. Maya's hand brushed over a control panel, and to her horror, it lit up under her touch. Human words blinked on the screen. Access granted, Maya whispered, voice trembling. This isn't alien. Humans built this. Ryan's stomach sank. He turned, and what he saw nearly broke him. Rows upon rows of transparent chambers lined the walls. Inside them, twisted remains of human beings. Some were deformed beyond recognition, their bones bent, their flesh fused with metal. Others were frozen mid-scream, their hands clawing against glass that had never broken. Zara's hand shot to her mouth, stifling the urge to vomit. No, Joe, this isn't real. Ethan pressed close to one chamber, his torchlight falling on a skeletal figure with alien tendrils sprouting from its ribs. The face still bore a human jawline. God help us, he muttered. Ryan clenched his fists until his knuckles bled. They used us. Like lab rats, Maya, her voice cracking. This planet, it's not random. It's a proving ground. They've been sending people here for years, maybe decades, and studying who lives, who dies. The words sank into them like poison. For the first time since arriving, the group didn't just feel fear, they felt grief. A metallic screech ripped through the silence. Then another. The floor trembled. From the vents above spilled nightmares, creatures no bigger than a man's torso, spider-like but fused with metal plating. Glowing eyes burning in the dark. Dozens, then hundreds. Ryan, move! Move! Gunfire erupted. Sparks danced in the dim corridors as Ryan cut down the first wave. Zara slashed with her blade, tearing one creature in half, ichor spraying her face. Maya screamed as one leapt at her, its claws grazing her arm. Ethan tackled it mid-air, slamming it into the wall with a sickening crunch. They ran. The facility became a blur of flickering lights, steel catwalks, and hissing shadows. The swarm poured after them, shrieking, clawing, their metallic limbs scraping the walls like nails on bone. The stairwell appeared ahead, a crumbling spiral of rusted steel leading upward. Their way out. But it was narrow, jagged, half-collapsed. Ryan, go! Climb! Maya scrambled upward, Zara close behind. But the swarm was faster, skittering up the walls, closing in. Ethan stopped, reloaded. His movements were too calm, too steady. Ryan turned, desperation in his eyes. What the hell are you doing? Come on! Ethan shook his head. His voice was firm, unshaken. Not all of us make it out. Not this time. Ryan lunged, grabbing his arm. Don't you dare! Don't you damn dare! Ethan shoved him back, slamming the butt of his rifle into Ryan's chest. His eyes softened for just a second. Take care of them. Take care of her. He nodded toward Zara. Zara froze halfway up the stairs, horror dawning across her face. Ethan! But Ethan was already turning, already firing. Bullets ripped through the swarm. Creatures exploded into black ichor, but more came, pouring over him like a living tide. The last thing Ryan saw before Zara dragged him upward was Ethan, standing tall, a wall of fire and fury against the horde. Then he was gone, consumed by the swarm. They burst out onto the surface, collapsing under the alien sky. Their lungs burned, their bodies shook. But the silence that followed was worse than the swarm. Zara snapped. She shoved Ryan hard, rage boiling in her eyes. "You let him die. You were supposed to protect us." Ryan didn't fight back. His voice was hollow. "He chose." Zara's fists shook. "He trusted you." Maya broke then, falling to her knees, tears streaking her dirt-stained face. "We can't do this anymore. Every time we fight, every time we breathe, someone dies. How many more, Ryan? How many more before it's us?" Ryan's jaw trembled, but no tears came. He stared at the sky, his voice raw with rage. "They made this place to break us, to see how much we can take before we snap. But they're about to find out. We don't break." The fire crackled weakly between them, but no warmth reached their hearts. Only grief, only rage. Deep below, in the bowels of the facility, machines whirred to life again. Sparks lit the darkness. Ethan's broken body was dragged across the floor by mechanical arms, his chest faintly rising and falling. His eyes fluttered, trapped between life and death. A voice echoed through the chamber, chilling, controlled, undeniably human. "Subject terminated. Proceed to phase 2. How many more have to die before we find the truth?" The air inside the facility was colder than the surface, sharp enough to bite their lungs, yet each of them kept moving. Boots echoing in the long metal corridors. Ryan's mind churned with questions he couldn't answer. Why were there human systems here? Why did the panels respond to Maya's touch? Why the chambers of twisted bodies? Every step deeper felt like walking into a graveyard that belonged to them, not to some alien race. Zara's knife stayed in her hand, knuckles white around the hilt. Her eyes never stopped scanning, every flicker of light or twitch of shadow setting her teeth on edge. "This place," she muttered under her breath. "It's wrong. It feels alive." Ethan gave a small grunt, adjusting the rifle strapped across his chest. His silence was heavier than his weapon, but Ryan knew what was brewing behind it. Ethan had always carried himself like a shield, the kind of man who put himself between danger and everyone else. Tonight, though, Ryan could see the strain. There was something in Ethan's eyes that told Ryan he'd already made a decision. The hum of machinery deepened as they passed another row of chambers. A face stared out at them through cracked glass, half skull, half human. Ryan forced himself not to look too long, but Maya stopped. Her hand lifted, trembling as it hovered near the glass. "They weren't just testing survival," she whispered. "They were changing us, experimenting, trying to make something new." Ryan's hand clamped down on her shoulder, dragging her forward. "Don't stop. Don't even look at them." His voice was hard, but underneath it was fear. Fear that if he let her stare too long, she'd break apart right there in front of them. The screech came again, closer, louder. Ryan spun, gun ready, just in time to see movement ripple across the ceiling. Metallic limbs, too many of them. A dozen glowing eyes reflected in the torchlight. "Run," Ethan growled. The swarm dropped like rain, chaos erupted. Gunfire roared through the corridor, ricocheting off steel walls. Zara's blade slashed in a blur, ichor splattering across her face. One of the creatures leapt for Maya, claws outstretched, and she screamed. Ethan was already there, crushing it against the wall in a spray of sparks and black liquid. They moved together, backs pressed, fighting their way down the hall. Ryan fired until his rifle clicked empty, then rammed the stock into another creature's jaw, snapping it sideways. The floor beneath them rattled, the walls vibrating like a living heartbeat. More were coming. Ahead, Ryan saw the stairwell, narrow, rusted, their only way out. "Go, climb!" he shouted, shoving Maya toward it. Maya stumbled up the first steps, Zara right behind her, slashing at anything that came close. Ryan fired into the horde, buying them seconds. Then he saw Ethan stop. His rifle lifted, but his eyes weren't on the swarm. They were on Ryan. "No," Ryan said, shaking his head, voice breaking. "Don't do it." Ethan stepped back, planting his feet. He reloaded, his movement slow, deliberate, like he'd rehearsed this moment 1,000 times. "You know what has to happen." "Bullshit. We can all make it." Ryan's chest heaved. desperation clawing at his throat. Ethan's eyes softened just for a second. Take care of them. Take care of her. His gaze flicked up the stairwell to Zara. She'd stopped halfway, watching with wide, horrified eyes. Ethan, don't you dare! Zara screamed, her voice breaking. But Ethan was already firing. Round after round tore into the swarm, blasting creatures apart in sprays of metal and gore. He roared with each shot, forcing them back, holding them, drowning in the chaos. Ryan lunged toward him, but Ethan shoved him back with the butt of his rifle, slamming the air out of his lungs. Go! He bellowed. The last thing Ryan saw before Zara grabbed him, dragging him up the stairs, was Ethan standing tall in the flood of monsters, his silhouette swallowed by a tide of claws and teeth. Gunfire thundered until it was swallowed by the screeches. Then silence. They burst onto the surface, lungs burning, eyes blinded by the alien night. They collapsed onto the jagged ground, but the silence that followed wasn't peace, it was emptiness. Ryan lay staring at the stars, his chest heaving, his mind refusing to process what had just happened. Zara's scream broke the night. She spun on him, shoving him hard, her fists pounding against his chest. You let him die. You could have stopped him. Ryan didn't fight back. He couldn't. His voice was hoarse, broken. He chose. Don't you say that. Zara's fists trembled, rage and grief tearing her apart. He trusted you. Maya dropped to her knees, sobs racking her body. We can't keep doing this, she whispered. Every step we take, someone dies. How many more before it's us? Ryan's jaw clenched. He looked at the sky, at the stars that mocked them with their cold indifference. His voice was raw, a growl torn from the depths of him. They built this place to break us, to see how much pain we can take before we give in. But they don't understand something. We don't break. The fire they lit later was small, crackling weakly against the chill, but no warmth reached them. Not with Ethan gone, not with his last words burning in their minds. And deep below, in the shadows of the facility, machines stirred. Sparks lit the darkness. Ethan's broken body was dragged across the floor by mechanical arms, his chest faintly rising and falling. His eyes fluttered, trapped between life and death. A voice echoed in the chamber, cold and human. Subject terminated. Proceed to phase 2. The hum grew louder. Somewhere above, the group shivered without knowing why. The fire burned low, throwing long shadows across the jagged rocks. Ryan sat closest, elbows on his knees, staring at the flames as if answers might rise from them. His hands were raw, streaked with dirt and blood, but he couldn't feel them. He felt nothing at all, except the weight of Ethan's absence. Zara paced like a caged animal, blade still in her grip. Her boots crunched against the stone, her eyes burning holes into Ryan's back. Every few steps she'd stop, open her mouth as if to speak, then clench her jaw and keep pacing. She couldn't bring herself to sit down. She couldn't sit still, not when rage was the only thing keeping her upright. Finally, the words tore out of her. You could have dragged him out. You didn't even try. Her voice cracked, brittle and sharp. Ryan didn't lift his eyes from the fire. You think I didn't want to? You think I didn't? His throat closed. He swallowed hard, forcing the words through. He made his choice. Choice? Zara snapped, stepping closer, her shadow falling across him. That wasn't a choice. That was suicide. Hadn't you let him? Ryan's jaw tightened, but still he didn't look at her. He couldn't. If he saw her face, if he saw the grief in her eyes, he'd break. If he hadn't stayed behind, none of us would be here right now. You know that. Zara's hand twitched on her blade. For one furious heartbeat, Ryan thought she might actually strike him. Instead, she turned sharply away, her shoulders shaking. Her voice dropped to a whisper. He saved me, and I couldn't save him. Maya's sobs filled the silence. She was curled up near the fire, knees to her chest, her face buried against her arms. She hadn't stopped crying since they'd reached the surface. Each sound was raw, jagged, cutting deeper into Ryan than any blade could. He moved toward her, hesitant, like approaching something fragile. Maya! She lifted her head, eyes red and swollen. I don't want to hear it. Don't tell me it'll be okay. Don't tell me this is part of the plan. Because it's not. It's just death after death, and we're next. Her voice cracked and the last words came out as a whisper. We're next. Ryan's chest ached. He wanted to tell her she was wrong, that they'd find a way home, that they'd survive this nightmare. But the words caught in his throat because deep down, he wasn't sure anymore. Instead, he reached out, gently resting his hand on her shoulder. She flinched at first, then sagged against him, her sobs muffled in his shirt. Ryan held her, eyes fixed on the dark horizon. Zara stopped pacing, her gaze on them. For a moment, she looked ready to lash out again, but something in her expression softened. She turned away, staring at the stars instead. The night was silent, too silent. The kind of silence that pressed in from all sides, suffocating. Ryan's mind kept replaying Ethan's final stand, the muzzle flashes lighting up the swarm, his voice booming through the chaos, the look in his eyes before he turned back to the fight. He thought of Ethan's words, "Take care of them." Ryan tightened his arms around Maya. He had failed Ethan once. He would not fail him again, but beneath that vow a darker thought stirred. Deep in his gut he knew Ethan wasn't gone. Not completely. Something about the way the facility had stirred to life, the way the machines had activated. It gnawed at him. Zara's voice cut through the silence, low and raw. "How many more, Ryan?" He finally looked at her. Her eyes glistened in the firelight, not just with anger, but with pain she couldn't hide. "How many more have to die before we find the truth?" she whispered. Ryan didn't answer, because he didn't know. And in the depths below, Ethan's eyes fluttered open for just a moment, glassy and unfocused. The machines around him whirred louder. His chest rose, shallow and mechanical, as the voice spoke again, calm, deliberate, human. Phase 2 initiated. The sky was beginning to pale, the faintest trace of dawn creeping across the jagged horizon. But for the survivors, there was no comfort in the light. Ryan hadn't slept. He sat apart from the fire, his back against a rock, eyes scanning the wasteland like a soldier on watch. Every sound, the crack of cooling stone, the sigh of wind through the cliffs, put his nerves on edge. He couldn't shake the image of Ethan, swallowed by the swarm. He couldn't shake the guilt. Zara crouched by the fire, sharpening her blade with steady, almost obsessive strokes. Sparks hissed each time metal kissed stone. Her jaw was set tight, her movements mechanical. She hadn't spoken to Ryan since the argument. Her anger wasn't gone, but it had cooled into something quieter, heavier, like molten iron settling into a blade. Maya, however, hadn't moved from where she lay, curled beneath the tattered remains of her jacket. Her face was pale, hollowed by exhaustion and grief. When her eyes opened, they weren't the eyes of the scientist who'd once been so eager to unravel mysteries. They were the eyes of someone haunted. "Water's low," Ryan said finally, his voice flat. "We need to move. The facility might have supplies we missed." Zara didn't look up from her blade. "Or more nightmares." Ryan's jaw clenched. He wanted to argue, but Maya stirred, cutting through the tension. Her voice was hoarse but urgent. "Nightmares or not, I need to go back." Both Ryan and Zara turned to her. Maya struggled to sit up, her hands trembling. "When I saw those chambers, when I saw the failed experiments, I recognized the tech. Not all of it was alien." Her voice cracked, but she pressed on. The energy signatures, the architecture, it was human. Advanced but human. Zara's brow furrowed. "What are you saying?" Maya met her eyes, desperation and certainty burning through the grief. "That facility wasn't just alien. It was built by us, or by someone like us." Ryan leaned forward. "Maya, that's impossible. We don't have technology like this. Portals, alien hybrids, that's... Then how do you explain the portal we fell through?" she snapped, her voice trembling with frustration. "How do you explain the fact that everything here feels designed? We didn't just stumble into an alien world. We were sent here." The words hung in the air like a blade poised to strike. Zara stopped sharpening her weapon, her gaze hardening. "You're saying someone back home did this? That they used us as test subjects?" Maya nodded, tears welling in her eyes. "That's what Ethan died for. Not an accident. A project. A proving ground." Ryan felt the ground tilt beneath him. He thought of Ethan's sacrifice, of the countless dangers they'd faced since stepping through that portal. The hunger, the fear, the endless trials, it all clicked together in a way that made his stomach churn. "This isn't survival," Maya whispered. "It's an experiment." For the first time since Ethan's death, silence stretched between them without anger, without accusation. Only horror. Zara sheathed her blade with a snap and stood. "Then we find whoever's running this, and we tear them apart." Ryan rose too, his face a mask of grim resolve. First we survive, then we get answers. Maya wiped her eyes and stood shakily, her voice breaking but determined. Ethan didn't die so we could fall apart. He died so we could finish this. They started moving as the sun rose, their figures small against the vast, hostile landscape. Behind them, the wind stirred through the abandoned cliffs, carrying the faintest echo of machinery still humming deep below. And in the shadows of the underground facility, Ethan's body twitched on the slab. The machines around him pulsed with new energy, lights crawling across his veins. His chest rose unnatural, mechanical. A calm voice whispered through the chamber. Subject stabilized. Sacrifice protocol complete. His eyes opened, clouded but alive. The silence in the ruins was heavier than any sound. Dust drifted from the cracked ceiling as Ryan, Maya, and Zara moved deeper, guided only by the faint glow of Ethan's salvaged blueprints flickering on their wrist screens. His sacrifice still echoed in their bones, but his maps had given them purpose, the promise of a control room buried at the very heart of the alien-human complex. Ryan kept his voice low, the barrel of his scavenged rifle aimed into the shadows. Stay close. This is the last stretch. Maya's hands trembled as she held a torch, its beam shaking against the walls. Her mind raced, Ethan's glowing veins, his impossible revival, the scream that still haunted her dreams. She forced herself to breathe. If they didn't finish this, Ethan's death would mean nothing. Zara walked at the rear, her jaw clenched, eyes hard. The defiance that once pushed her to run alone had shifted into something else, a simmering rage ready to ignite. But beneath it was a crack, a vulnerability she hadn't shown since the day she watched her brother die in another lifetime on Earth. The tunnel sloped downward, into a chamber larger than any they had seen before. Metallic walls fused with alien stone pulsed faintly with blue light. And there, at the far end, had stood a door. Not alien, not natural, but unmistakably human. Steel reinforced with alien alloy, a warning etched into its surface in English. Authorized personnel only. Ryan's stomach dropped. "This isn't alien," he muttered. This is ours." Maya stepped forward, running her hand over the faded letters. Her heart hammered. She whispered almost to herself, "We did this. Humans built this place." Zara spat on the ground. "Then humans sent us here. To rot." The door groaned open as Ryan shoved it, revealing the control room inside. Screens flickered alive, some cracked, some pulsing with alien glyphs, but others showing Earth. Not from maps, not from memory, but live feeds. Cities, oceans, satellites, Earth itself spinning against the black. Maya gasped, tears welling in her eyes. "They're watching. They've been watching us the whole time." Zara's face twisted in fury. "So we're rats. This planet. It's their damn maze." Then on the largest screen, text scrolled, "Project Daedalus, a Survivor Trial. Phase 73. Objective, engineer perfect soldiers for interstellar war." Ryan's throat went dry. This isn't just survival. It's recruitment. They're trying to build soldiers who don't break, soldiers who can outlast anything. Before the weight of the truth could fully sink in, the walls trembled. Dust cascaded from the ceiling, a sound low guttural rising. The monster. From the shadows of the ruin's far side, it emerged. The six-legged beast, but no longer the same. Its hide had hardened. Glowing veins ran across its body like molten cracks, and two new limbs had sprouted, tipped with serrated claws. Its evolution was complete. Zara raised her weapon. Round 2. Ryan's grip tightened on his rifle, adrenaline flooding his veins. He looked at Maya, who was already pulling wires from the console, searching desperately for a way to shut the system down. "Ryan," she yelled over the rumbling floor. "We need a choice. Portal to Earth, or destroy it all." The beast roared, charging. Ryan's eyes locked on his friends. He thought of Ethan. He thought of every scream, every scar, every lie. He knew one thing. This fight would decide more than their lives. It would decide humanity's soul. The monster's roar shook the chamber, rattling the steel consoles. Sparks spat from the screens as Maya ducked behind the main terminal, her hands trembling over alien wires and human circuits that pulsed like veins. Ryan fired first. The rifle spat a burst of rounds, glowing tracers lighting the dark. The bullets sparked off the creature's armored hide, doing little more than making it angrier. "Zara, flank it," he shouted. Zara didn't need to be told twice. She sprinted left, her boots pounding on the stone floor. She slid into cover behind a broken pillar, leveling her weapon and firing at the beast's joints, where its glowing veins pulsed brightest. The monster bellowed, claws ripping into the ground as it charged. Ryan rolled aside just as it slammed into the consoles, crushing steel like paper. One screen went black. The feed of Earth vanished into static. Maya screamed, scrambling back, her heart hammering against her ribs. She felt Ethan's voice in her head, calm, steady, guiding her the way he always had before. "Focus, Maya, there's always a way through." She forced herself to keep working, pulling wires, searching desperately for the control to the portal. The monster swung one of its serrated claws at Ryan. He ducked low, rolling beneath its legs, firing upward into its glowing underbelly. This time the bullets found soft flesh. The beast shrieked, stumbling, ichor spraying the floor. Zara smirked grimly. "Bleed, you bastard," but the thing wasn't done. Its second set of limbs lashed out, one claw catching Ryan across the chest. His armor cracked, the impact throwing him across the room. He slammed into the wall, gasping, vision swimming. Zara's eyes went wide. "Ryan!" Before the beast could finish him, Zara charged. With a feral scream, she vaulted onto its back, driving her blade into the crack Ryan's bullets had made. The monster thrashed, slamming her against the wall, but she held on, ripping the blade deeper. Black ichor splattering across her face. "Maya!" Ryan croaked, dragging himself upright, blood dripping from his mouth. "The portal, where does it lead?" Maya's fingers flew over the console. The screens flickered again, stabilizing. One showed Earth's skyline. Another showed data streams, dates, numbers, lists of subjects. Her heart turned to ice. Names, thousands of them, all marked as terminated. "They've been sending people here for years," she whispered. "Forget the damn data," Ryan barked. "Can you open it?" Maya looked at him, tears burning her eyes. "Yes, but if I do, they'll know we survived. They'll come for us." The monster bucked, throwing Zara across the chamber. She slammed into a pillar and collapsed, groaning, her weapon skittering across the floor. Ryan staggered forward, raising his rifle again, his vision blurred with blood. He emptied the last of his clip into the beast's face. One eye burst, the other glowed brighter, its roar shaking the room. "Maya, do it!" Her hands hovered over the control. Earth shimmered on the screen. A glowing ring of energy began to form in the center of the chamber, the portal itself crackling, alive. The monster turned, charging her. Ryan's heart lurched. His legs moved before his mind caught up. He sprinted, slamming into the beast's side just before it reached Maya. Its claws tore into his arm, burning white-hot pain through his nerves, but he held it back with everything he had. "Maya!" he shouted, teeth clenched. "Choose!" She looked between Ryan, bleeding and broken, and the swirling portal to Earth. Her chest heaved, her vision blurred with tears. Destroy it, and end the experiment, or step through, and face whatever waited back home. Her hand shook as it hovered over the control. Behind her, Zara dragged herself up, watching, her face pale with pain but eyes burning. The monster roared again, its claws sinking deeper into Ryan's flesh. He screamed, forcing it back an inch at a time. "Now!" Maya slammed her hand down. The portal flared, the chamber filling with blinding light. The chamber exploded with light as the portal stabilized, its swirling energy casting alien shadows across the ruined walls. For a heartbeat, everyone froze, Ryan straining against the beast. Maya blinded by the flare, Zara staggering to her feet with blood running down her cheek. Then the monster roared, louder than ever, its claws tearing into Ryan's shoulder. He dropped to one knee, teeth clenched, vision flashing white from the pain. "Ryan!" Maya screamed, darting forward, but he shook his head. "Finish it!" His voice was raw, guttural. Zara stumbled to her weapon, scooping it up with trembling hands. She aimed at the beast's pulsing veins, the place Ryan had already torn open. Her finger hovered on the trigger, but hesitation flickered in her eyes. Memories of Ethan's death slammed into her chest, the helplessness, the rage. Not again, she screamed and fired. The bullets ripped through the beast's side. It shrieked, thrashing, but Ryan held on, forcing its head upward, exposing the weak spot. "Now!" he shouted. Maya grabbed a loose pipe from the floor, jagged, broken, still glowing faintly from alien circuitry. With a cry, she drove it upward, straight into the beast's glowing throat. The monster convulsed, its roar turning into a choking gurgle. Black ichor spilled in waves, splattering across the consoles. Sparks flew as the liquid ate through wires, the control room flashing in and out of life. For a moment, it seemed the chamber itself was screaming with the creature. Then silence, the beast collapsed, twitching once, twice. Then lay still. Its massive body steamed, the stench filling the air. Ryan staggered back, his arms shaking, his chest heaving. Blood ran down his side, but he was alive. Barely. Zara rushed to him, catching him before he fell. She pressed her forehead against his, whispering, "You idiot. You could have died." He gave a weak grin, blood on his teeth. "Not today." Maya leaned against the console, gasping, staring at the glowing portal. Its energy swirled like a storm, showing glimpses of Earth beyond, oceans, skies, city lights. Home, but her hands shook. The data still flashed in her memory. Names, projects, thousands of subjects marked as expendable. Earth wasn't just home. It was the hand that had fed them to this nightmare. "What if it's worse on the other side?" she whispered. Ryan forced himself upright, his voice steady now, strong despite the pain. "Then we fight again. But we don't stop here. We can't." Zara's eyes glistened. For once her anger softened into something fragile. I don't want to lose anyone else." Ryan put a hand on her shoulder, firm. "Then we make sure no one else dies for nothing." The three of them stood before the portal. Its hum filled the chamber, the air trembling, the light swallowing everything else. Behind them lay a graveyard of lies, alien ruins, human machines, and the corpse of a monster that should never have existed. Ahead of them was the unknown. Maya's throat tightened. This could be freedom, or just another prison. Ryan nodded slowly, his eyes locked on the swirling storm. "Either way, we find out together." They stepped forward side by side. The portal flared, engulfing them in white light, and then nothing. Only one question remained, echoing into the silence. What's waiting for us on the other side? Freedom, or another prison?